I'm Maxie. I'm the director of Local Lavo, and I could not be more jazzed to bring you this conversation today with the one and only Christine Hassler. For those
Ah,
of you who don't know Christine, she is an amazing life coach, a phenomenal author. She's had 2 best-selling books, and your third one, which is coming out this fall, Expectation Hangovers, How to Leverage Disappointment, is one thing that I'm so excited about. Can't wait to get my hands on. And, Christine, I'm honored to have you here. You've been transformational in my own journey. We've had, so many instances of you affecting the lives of other Lavo women, and I just can't wait to have this conversation with you. So I'm going to turn it to you because my bio isn't going to even remotely give you the credit you deserve.
well, thank you. And the bio that you may read is probably the highlight reel, and I'm happy to give more the behind-the-scenes version. And I'm such a fan of you and of Lavo, and it's just been an amazing journey too. I think I've been somehow involved with you for like over 2 or 3 years now.
It has forever,
yeah,
right?
just really relate to the women that are part of this group, because there's a lot of high achievers, a lot of women that put massive pressure on themselves, but that want really big lives, and I think why I connect so well to all of you is because I'm a recovering overachiever. Being gentler to myself and having a kinder relationship with myself has been one of my major learning lessons. How to not put so much pressure on myself, but really come from a place of purpose and passion and service, and really, leverage the disappointments in my life. It's all been part of my journey. So I'm so excited to be here and to share and just to have this conversation with you. So the briefer bio is that, my career is a total accident, and my greatest joy and the things that have been most fulfilling to me have come from my greatest suffering and my greatest disappointments and my greatest expectation hangovers. So growing up, I grew up in Texas. Maxie and I were just connecting on like a Dallas-Plano connection. I'm in Austin right now. And I was, bright, energetic little girl like we all were. We all start off confident and sure of ourselves, and we aren't worrying, we aren't putting pressure on ourselves. But then things happen, people were told things, we hear things, we see things, we experience things, and we start to move out of that place of love where we feel confident and worthy and deserving and all those things, and into a place of fear and judgment, doubt, shame, all those kinds of things, and kind of start constructing a story about ourselves. So I started getting teased and bullied in 4th grade, had a lot of health problems, was a super late bloomer, and so the story I started forming about myself is that I'm not likable and there's something terribly wrong with me. And we all create these stories. Other ones may be, I'm not worthy, I have to work hard to get love, I'm not deserving, people leave me, I can't trust people, I need to please people in order to get their love. I mean, I'm sure as you're listening to my story, you're probably hearing your own. And so this story about not being enough, something wrong with me, not being likable, how I compensated with that was being an extreme overachiever. And I had to get 100s, had to go to the best college, had to graduate at the top of my class, just the pressure I put on myself. Because I thought, well, if no one likes me and if I'm not worthy just for who I am, I better do something amazing, do something really big to feel worthy. So after high school, I went to college, then moved out to Hollywood because a lot of insecure people go to Hollywood thinking like that's the place where I can prove myself, and established this amazing career as a Hollywood agent. Was making tons of money by the time I was 24, was the youngest ever female agent, was dating the head of a movie studio, going to the Oscars and the Golden Globes and private jets and the whole deal. Was miserable, completely miserable. And some of you out there may be experiencing this. I really was like, holy, you know what? I have worked so hard and so long to achieve this career, and I don't like it. Like, there was no plan B because I was really committed to making plan A work. And that's a really scary place to be when you work really hard to achieve something and you think it's what you want, and then you're in it and you realize that it's not. But what do? Because there's not only the fear, there's the shame of how do I not like this? And I didn't know what else to do. But I knew I couldn't stay. I stuck it out for like a year after knowing it wasn't right. And after I quit, that was the beginning of my entire quarter-life crisis that really inspired my first 2 books. So I left this career and all the money, and I went into really dark depression because my career had been my identity. And without it, I didn't know who I was or what I had. Then I went into lots of debt. Then I got diagnosed with an undiagnosable autoimmune disorder. Then I got into major problems with my family. And then I got dumped by my fiance 6 months before my wedding. So that was a lot in like 8 months. And it was that kind of moment where I came to my knees and I was really questioning if I even really wanted to live anymore, that I realized that there had to be something bigger. There had to be a reason. And I had a big spiritual wake-up call. I won't go into that, but had a big spiritual wake-up call and was like, I've got to figure out how to live inside out rather than outside in. I keep looking for the guy or the job or the money or the body or whoever to make me happy, and I've got to find a different way. And that started my journey of connecting back to myself, of connecting to a higher power, of dealing with the issues that I hadn't really dealt with, of writing a new story for my life. And being an author and a life coach and speaker and leading retreats around the world, these are all things that just kind of happened, that just came in when I started working on me and getting really aligned to who I really, truly was. The other thing I was addicted to other than achieving was comparison. I'd constantly be looking at other people, and I think that came from being left out and feeling teased. I'd always be looking at other people going, well, if I could just be like them, then I'd be happy or accepted or whatever I thought I'd be. And I think when we compare ourselves to other people, we miss out on getting really clear about who we are and what we have to offer. And when we're trying to be like someone else, we move out of that kind of energetic alignment that attracts the people and the opportunities to us. People often ask how I built business. And I'm actually launching a program in January teaching people how I did it. It's called the Secret Sauce Program. Because I did it by really tapping into what makes me uniquely me and what are the gifts that I have to offer and really cultivating those instead of trying to be like everybody else. Sure, learning from other people is very valuable, but to me, we can get really off track when we go into comparison. Yeah. So I know I've like segued from my bio into now just ripping.
Well, we love that.
That's what I do.
My mind is doing the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much to ask you that's going to be so beneficial for this community. I mean, I just think everything you shared, Christine, about that dark time that you went through. I mean, first it's like I'm sorry you went through that, but I also know that so many of us have, and the way that you've built something so beautiful from that really difficult time, I think is just such a testament to what a lot of people listening, what a lot of people watching are going to do as well. Because, working with Levo, I meet so many women who don't know where to turn. They're in really, they're in very dark times. And for me, I first came to you. The reason I first found you is because I was having a quarter-life crisis of my own, which was tough, and it was pre-Levo. And it is why I picked up this book, which I need you to sign, by the way. 20-something. You need to sign it, but it's the original, the 20-something, 20-everything, and I was just having this identity crisis. My life had been about sports broadcasting. It wasn't what I wanted to do any longer, but I didn't know how to let go of that goal. And when you were able to put that term around it of having this quarter-life crisis, it allowed me to kind of reflect on what was going on and know that there was going to be a plan out of this. And so many Levo women do that same thing. They come out of college, and it's why we're an amazing resource, because we're like, it's okay. But how do you find that with this quarter-life crisis that a lot of 20-somethings are dealing with, how do you know you're going through it? Like, luckily came across your article, one of your articles, but what are some ways that you can identify this, this thing that happens in our 20s?
Honestly, Maggie, I think every 20-something in this day and age goes through it. I really do. Because when we think about what is a quarter-life crisis, like what I think our generation is doing is we are breaking old systems and structures. We are breaking the status quo. We are redefining what career means, what relationship means, what being a woman means, what family means. And so I think that we're just waking up sooner. Yeah. And when you think about our 20s, it's the in-between. Like, we're out of our parents, we're out of the college conditioning, we're on our own for the first time, and it's the in-between, kind of having other people manage our life to creating a life for our own. Mm-hmm. So if you don't go through a time when you're questioning things and things are a little tough and you fall on your face a few times, I don't know that you're really alive, honestly, in this day and age. I don't think a quarter life crisis is a bad thing. I think it's mandatory. I'm so glad those things happened to me. When like, oh, do you ever want to like, call your ex-fiance and tell him off? I'm like, no. I say thank you to him because like he was sort of the catalyst that triggered all of this. And everyone in our life, even the people that hurt us or we perceive hurting us, is for our growth. And yes, I'm not one of those people that believes in spiritual bypass and like, oh, just find the blessing and everything's la-di-da. No, like I have spent a lot of time yelling and screaming and crying and hitting things in an emotion because I know how to emotionally process things, and we'll talk about my retreat and why I do that. So it's been one of those things where when people come to me and they're like, I'm having a quarter life crisis, I'm like, awesome. That means you're conscious. That means you're awake. That means that you're questioning the things in your life that maybe were decided upon based on expectations or based on what someone else wanted you to do or that weren't right for you. We have like our mind's idea and our ego's idea of what we want, but then there's this whole other world that's more spirit-led, that's more universal-led, that's more intuitively led. And oftentimes we have to have that breakdown before we get that clarity. So some signs that you're in it, one, you're resonating with what Maxine and I are talking about. Like if you're like, yeah, I'm fine with this, and you're paying attention, and your mind isn't wandering, then welcome to your quarter life crisis. You're not alone. If you're having a feeling of like nothing really feels wrong, but nothing feels terribly right either. If you are questioning career or relationships, if you just had like a heartbreak or a job loss or something in your life that feels so devastating, you feel completely disoriented. If you feel the pressure to make a lot of life decisions without the clarity or know-how to, if you feel paralyzed by not knowing what to choose. There's so many different ways. Also, I think a big part of it is, graduating from not just school, but from being a child of your parents to being an adult child of your parents. So boundaries with parents, I think, is another thing that can come up. But it's basically just a sense of wow, like I'm asking, who am I, what do I want, how do I really get it? And I'm willing to investigate.
Yeah, and I think, so many women that we hear at Levo, they do resonate with this, and they do start to question that. And one of the things that you brought up was that identity piece. I know that was a big part of my quarter life crisis was, okay, sports broadcaster is no longer a part of what I actually want, but that was everything I had always said I had wanted. And I meet women like this all the time who, they don't want to be an engineer anymore. They want to move into business and marketing or whatever that is. How do you let go of that identity piece?
Well, it's not an overnight thing like cleaning out your closet. I wish it was like that easy. It's just like, oh, let's pack it up and go, and that'll be the end of it. First of all, I think you have to understand that it's not your identity.
Yeah.
It's as wonderful it is to live in the modern world. I just got back from Bali, and I wrote an article about how Bali are the happiest people I know. And the reason why and they have nothing. I mean, it's basically third world.
I felt this way when I went to India. It was like they have so much joy. Where does this come from?
Yeah. Well, it's a couple things. They put their spiritual practice first. Yeah. Like they know their purpose in life isn't to run a company or register at Crate and Barrel and get married. That's like they know that's not their purpose. Right. They know that their purpose is to become basically a better spiritual being, be more loving, be more conscious, be a good person. I don't believe in good, bad, right, or wrong, but kind of in the spiritual world, from being with people in India and Bali and those kinds of things, they believe a good person is someone who lives with, just honest values, treating people with kindness, loveness, being the best person that you can possibly be. And the other thing is they have no expectations of life. Like they don't think it's their right to have some big, great career, or some amazing soulmate that's going to sweep them off their feet. They don't expect that. They just feel so blessed to be alive. And so I think in our conditioning, in our culture, it's really hard because it's hard to escape the messages we get about, oh, well, finding a great job or a relationship, whatever it may be, is the key to happiness. And so many people blur who they are with what they do. So I think the first part to answer your question, I'm answering your questions in such like roundabout ways. This is such a feminine conversation. I love it. I love it. We're being very feminine and not linear. I do not talk in bullet points.
Me
which is why I'm not an internet marketer and terrible at writing. But the first step in letting go of the identity is to realize it is not your identity. Yeah. So I don't care what kind of religion or whatever you may believe in, find some kind of spiritual practice. It can be going and connecting to nature. Something that starts to get you hip to the fact that it's not just you and your mind and this body and these external things, that there is something greater to you that you're connected to, oneness, universe, God, spirit, call it whatever you want. Right. And that is who you are. Who you are is love. Who you are is oneness. Who you are is an expression of spirit, of the universe. Who you are is infinite. That is all of our identity. It's in all of us. And so when you start to strengthen that muscle and that awareness, it's easier to let go of some external thing being your identity. You've got to connect to that internal identity first. That would be the first step. The second step is to really focus on the things that bring you joy. Because when you start to, and it can be taking a painting class, it can be playing with your niece or nephew or whatever it may be, when you start to cultivate more of the experience that are not goal, outcome based, result based, and just start doing things for creativity, for joy, those kinds of things, then you start to find more alignment and you start to realize what your natural gifts are. Now, I often make the comment that people will say to me, I don't know what my gifts are, I don't know what my talents are, and I say, well, I'm going to use the word God because that word works for me, insert whatever works for you. God often puts our greatest gifts and talents closest to us, so they're easiest to find, but we make them hardest to find because we take them for granted. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I've worked with where I'm like, that just comes so easily to me. I can't make a career out of that. I'm like, yes, you can. Come easily. So I think it's, and the final step is really getting clear, and this is what my books really help people do, between what is expected of you and what is true for you. Yeah. So those are two different things.
Yeah. I mean, they could not be more different. And I listen to you and what you're talking about in terms of finding your own joy and finding what makes you happy. And I think, I see this with myself, I see this with other women all the time, that one of the barriers to that is when you're looking outside of yourself and you're looking at what my best friend's doing, what my sister's doing, what, am I achieving to that level? And one of my favorite moments was sitting around that fire with you in LA, and I talked to you about comparisons and how you can stop. And you said, Maxie, if you had your hand on a fire, would you keep it there? And I was like, no, I wouldn't. And talk to me a little bit more about comparisons, because I know that is something that is plaguing our generation of women, and I know it's blocking success.
Yeah. First of all, get off of Facebook. if you're on Facebook and you're like, look at it and you torture yourself, comparing, like, just stop, just don't do it. Like I did that for a while when I was in my comparison coma. I would go and post and like maybe go to my friends' pages that I loved and I wouldn't compare myself to, but I would not look at the news feed. And I had a rule with myself: if I look at the news feed and compare or get jealous or go into any of that yucky, gross qualities, I'm just not going to do it.
Because you start to feel it. Like you have a visceral reaction to your news feed. I did it last night and I was like, why did I go there? Why did I?
Yes, exactly. And P.S., like if you're stalking exes or crushes on Facebook,
that's not what I was doing. No, I'm just kidding. That is probably what I was doing.
Yeah. You just like, it's just unnecessary torture. Life can be hard enough. Like, let's not add to it.
Amen.
So that's the first thing. Like, look at the things that trigger comparison. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like if you were an alcoholic and you were like 20 days sober, you wouldn't say, hey, let's go meet in a bar. You'd say, let's meet at Starbucks or something like that. You wouldn't put yourself in situations where it's going to be harder to say no.
Right.
So really make a list, like write it out, like what are the things that trigger comparison, And certain things you can avoid. You can avoid checking newsfeed or those kinds of things. The second thing is there's something about comparison that's beautiful, and I'll tell you what that is. So you just have to catch it soon and then get yourself out of comparison and into appreciation. We cannot see in someone else something we don't have inside ourselves. We can't recognize it. It's absolutely true. So just like there's negative projection in that things that annoy us in other people are often unresolved issues or things we don't like in ourselves, things we see or we admire in people are unrecognized, unappreciated, unacknowledged qualities within ourselves. Now, where we get tripped up is we think the form should be the same. So let's say, like for me, I have not been a very good social media platform builder. I don't have tons of followers. I don't have tons of Facebook fans. And I look at my peers and people that have been doing this. I've been doing this 11 years. There are people who've been doing it 3 years who have 100,000 Facebook fans. And that's where one of my comparison comas creep in. And so if I try to compare myself in terms of form, like my 7,000 followers versus their 100,000, I'm just going to go to hell and back, right? But if I look and I go, okay, what is that? What are the qualities inside that person that they've stepped into that's enabled that I'm not seeing inside myself? Where do I need to shine my light more? Where do I need to share more? Where, that kind of thing. And so if you look at who you're comparing yourself to, don't look at the form, look at the qualities, because that's showing you things inside of you that you need to step into more. So that's how we can use comparison. And then the other thing is we can go to people that we compare and we're like, okay, I can model. Like if I really want to do things in the way this person has done them, then I can model them. But like when I look back at some of the people that I compare myself to, I think, do I want to do it in the way they do it? No. Do I necessarily value the same things they value? No. Doesn't make them good, bad, or anything like that. It's just like a different system, So that's kind of the gem in comparison. And then where it becomes toxic is where we find ourselves completely depleted, and it becomes a form of self-beat. It really, really does become a form of self-beat. So when I notice myself doing it, I'm like, Christine, stop being mean to yourself. And then I say one thing I love and appreciate about myself. And that's how you start to flip that program.
Yeah, you acknowledge it. That's so helpful. I know that advice is going to be really, really helpful for both for me and for everybody listening. It's just, it's a hard thing, and it's nice to know that even someone as an expert as you, Christine, still deals with it, because it's just a testament to the fact that it's a continuous journey of working on those things. So you have given us amazing nuggets. Like, I feel like I could do this all day with you, but I know you have some really exciting things coming up both this summer and into the fall. So tell us about the retreat. Tell us about the book. I cannot wait to get my hands on the book.
Oh, yes. So, you heard a little bit of my story. There's been a lot of heartbreak, a lot of pain, a lot of challenge, a lot of health stuff. I suffered from depression for 20 years. From 10 until 30, I was medicated. And I haven't been for many years now. So I've had a lot, and I went to a workshop about, I don't know how many years ago, a long time ago, and I finally learned how to really process my emotions and connect to my intuition and spirituality. And this has been key for me, and I think this is for most women, because I had done a lot of personal growth work. I had a lot of awareness up in my head. I had a lot of ways to work with mental concepts, but I hadn't really truly learned how to process emotions in a healthy way, and like I said, connect deeply to my intuition or spirit. And I had this experiential workshop where I really learned all that for the first time, and it was that in combination with my first spiritual teacher. Her name was Mona. Because all of us have been angry and sad and whatever, and we learn how to suppress and avoid and repress emotions. And for most women, underneath our emotions is our passion, is our creativity. And so when women are like, I don't know what to do, or I feel blocked, or I know what I want to do and it's not working, it's usually because they're suppressed in some aspect of their life. There's some kind of unresolved issue there. There's some healing that needs to happen. And they kind of need to find their passion. And so this workshop that I have every year. I've done like 7 of them now. It's called Chrysalis. It's the most powerful workshop that I do. And I don't want to scare anybody. It's not like we're like, you know, running around and screaming and crying all the time. It's not like that. But it is like I said, a highly experiential 3-day retreat where the space is created and you're giving the tools to kind of deal with the stuff that you haven't dealt with that's truly holding you back. And at the same time, come together with like-minded women that are doing more than just talking about awarenesses and ahas, but are actually integrating them. And we teach you amazing meditation practices that I promise you've never done before, and a way to connect. And the women, when they come Friday, you come Friday afternoon, you leave Sunday afternoon, the women look different. Like, if you look at our testimonials page, the videos, the women are like shining because they let go of like years and years and years of crap they've been carrying around. So if you're looking for freedom, greater clarity, more confidence, letting go of something you've been carrying around, rewriting your story, a greater connection to your intuition, feeling more passionate about life, feeling more excited about being a woman and tapping into your feminine power, if any of those things sound good to you at all, then you may want to consider coming.
Love it. How can people sign up for the retreat? Is it on your website,
Yeah,
Christine?
you go to my site, there's a banner on top. If you go to workshops and events, there's a little banner on the right-hand side. We're already more than half full, and I haven't even sent an email about it. This is one that fills up quickly because people know about it, and friends do it and tell their friends. Yeah. It's an hour and a half outside of LA. If you fly in, we help you with transportation. We get like local LA girls to drive with you. We only take about 18 women, so it's really intimate. I have an amazing co-facilitator who's absolutely beautiful. You won't want to miss out on her. One of the wisest women I know. And it's just like, the other thing I want to say about it is there's a lot of, as much as we're all about women's empowerment, there's a lot of women have a charge about other women. You know, we can kind of come together and network, but I still notice there's distrust, there's competition, there's sizing up, there's insecurity that comes up. And the sisterhood that's created and the healing that happens, like issues that women have with other women and that kind of thing, it's a beautiful place for bonding, like with other like-minded women as well.
I love that. I love that, and I hope a lot of people jump on this opportunity. It's one you've been telling me about for a while, and I'm excited, you know, to get the community knowing about this as well. Christine, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Oh, and the book comes out October 2nd. It's called Expectation Hangover. I'm going to be doing lots of. If you don't get my updates, it's Christine@ChristineHassler.com. Sign up so you can keep in the know about everything that I'm doing, and I do local LA events too. So let me know.
We'll make sure everybody knows about that book when it launches.
Oh, thank you so much.
Of course. Well, you guys, you can find a recap on everything that we've talked about later this week on Leyva.com. Christine, thank you, and thank you to everybody joining in.
My pleasure. Thanks, Maxie.
Yeah.